Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Choice Late podcast. My name is Pete Tanner, and with me today is John Corcoran. John, how are you today?
I'm real good, Pete. It's 3 o'clock in the morning in Jawman, China.
Wow, just out and about. Well, John, I got to thinking about this whole 767 thing going on. And, isn't it funny that we have language in our contract that covers all of this? And they obviously ran a preliminary award. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, no, we're going to cancel this. And then it becomes this, it's a very complex issue. Our union says, oh, it's a complex issue, and we have to have a letter of agreement. Well, why do we have to have a letter of agreement? Can you explain that to me?
Well, what I'll say about it is that we have a contract right now that was signed in 22 from an arbitrator's award in 21. It's been referred to as this arbitrated contract, but if anybody looks at it, a large majority of all the terms and conditions were all agreed to by the negotiating committee led by Chris Knox, and the only issues that were arbitrated were just a few. Long-term disability was one, of course, compensation, the big ones that everyone always looks at. And we had been flying for Amazon for about 5 years when all these terms were agreed to under a CMI contract. And CMI is, for a pilot, is a ticking time bomb, because as soon as the CMI contract no longer works for Atlas, all they have to do is just say, okay, we're out, see you later. And they open up a position notice and hope that there's enough seats for everybody that's left. Well,
Yep.
They did that. They had a position notice. And just like they've had vacancy notices for as long as we've all worked here. But for some reason, this one had to be looked at a couple of times, delayed a couple of times, and then canceled. Something happened. And now
yeah.
it appears that there's a problem, and that problem is going to require us to solve it. And that's the big question. Why are we being told that we have to solve Atlas's problem?
Well, that's exactly right. You know what this is. I mean, they ran the award. Obviously, they saw there was a huge amount of training to be done. I think any pilot here who's been through some of the simulator training knows it isn't going to happen very fast. We're not capable of accepting that much training. And whatever the outcome of this award, now remember, Scott Lindsay isn't a benevolent person that's out there because he looked at the award and felt bad for everybody. No, he looked at the award and they said, hey, we're going to have millions and millions of dollars in training. And then 12 months from now, when these 7.3s go away, we got more training to do. And this is going to be a huge cost and very time consuming. And we can't get this done. We got a problem. Well, yes, I agree. Atlas Air has a problem. This is Atlas's problem. They created it, and they're making it our problem because all of a sudden we have to have a letter of agreement. All of a sudden we have to have an expedited vote on this LOA. Well, why? We have language in our contract. Why aren't we just following the language on the contract? Or if they ran the award and there was a problem, how come they didn't come out to us and say, okay, everybody, this is the problem we're having, and it's going to cost this many millions of dollars, and we need to try to get through this as quickly as we can. So here's what we're asking you to do for us, because obviously they're asking us to do something. And I just don't see what we need to do for them unless they give us something for it. And even then, what are we giving them? Are we subjugating seniority for this? What are we doing? And we're getting nothing from the expert negotiators.
Okay, so I agree. And here's something. We've got an email address on our website, and there's been a lot of emails that have popped in, and from 7.3 guys. And some of them are line check airmen. And what I'm being told, and I can only assume they're telling me the truth, is that they're being told that they need to remain on the aircraft until it leaves. So they are stuck. Well, how can you honor seniority and keep a guy sitting in a seat that he is no longer locked in? If your seat lock is up, you should be able to bid wherever you want to go. But they're being told they're going to have to stay because they're going to have to keep that fleet flying until June. So
Exactly.
and seniority, I mean, there's been a lot of fingers flying around about how we don't honor seniority. Seniority, as you've said, it's not the only. It's not everything. It's the only thing. And so we completely honor seniority, including a member of the 7-3 crowd that is, or I should say, member of the 7-3 cruise that is not on seat lock. And if they want to go bid to the 7-4 or the 777, then they should be able to do that. But they're being told they're not going to be able to. So this letter of agreement is obviously going to be something that is crafted in the 11th hour to try to fix this problem.
Well, and the question is, when did you know what did you know and when did you know it? How long ago did they know this was a problem? You think, I don't know, whenever they made the announcement, you said the 27th of May? Did they know on like what, the 26th that this was going to happen? Come on. They knew this was going to happen, and they could have gone to all those people and said, run the numbers. And my guess is they probably did. And somebody said, sure, boss, no problem. We can handle it. Uh-oh, we got a problem. Better go to the union. Our professional negotiators that do such a great job, well, they negotiated this section of the contract. They were happy with it. I don't remember them ever raising the ire about how this section worked, the article that they're going to apply to this. I never heard them say anything negative about it, and that it went against the pilots and it went against our seniority. Oh, no, to the contrary. They were happy with it, and they accepted it. And so, John Dietrich told me to my face one time, sometimes the contract goes in your favor, sometimes the contract goes in my favor. So let's think about this for a minute. I don't know all the numbers, and I'll admit that I don't know all the numbers because, quite frankly, we don't have access to the data. But let's just say there's a 767 captain that's going to be downgraded, and he says, I'll just bid over to the 7-3, and I'm pay protected until I complete OE. Well, that's why you should be getting your upgrade pay or your downgrade pay from the time you're awarded it. And that prevents them from doing stuff like this, because then the pilot says, well, it's not worth it for me to go back to the 7-3. I'm better to go over sideways or up to the 7-4 as a first officer.
Well,
if the pay.
I gotta jump in. The way they crafted the CBA, they never thought that someone would actually bid to a piece of equipment that paid lower. It was always bidding higher, and so they said, okay, well, we're going to hold off on paying you that more money as long as we possibly can. And this time, it's gonna sting them. And the control that the crews have right now is to just go ahead and force their hand. I can only assume that is what's happened, is that a group 3, 4, 10 got together and they said, hey, I think I figured something out. So
Maybe.
they should be talking to every one of their guys saying, hey, this is the only move we have.
Here's the survival mode, guys. This is exactly our play right here.
Exactly. And full transparency. I mean, that's what we're being told in these town hall meetings, full transparency. Well, doesn't full transparency mean telling us 6 months ago that the Amazon contract was going to go away? I think this position notice was a litmus test. They said, let's just go ahead and see what happens. This conversation was probably taking place 3-4 months ago. They were probably saying, hey, what if this occurs? Well, we don't know. Okay, so let's just see what happens. We'll drop the position notice, we'll see what the vacancy bids show or the standing bids show, and then we'll make a decision from there. And they found out. And what they should have been doing is they should have been planning for this 3, 4, 5 months ago and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then when they announced that Amazon was going away, then everything is already in place. but they didn't. And then this communication that we're getting from the union about how we need to make an expedited vote. What exactly does that mean? Expedited vote. We're going to have an hour to do it. We're going to have a week.
Well,
What
it's not.
exactly?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. But the thing about it is what's the emergency? What is the complex issue that they say? Well, the issues are really complex. Why? You have contract language, right? And the contract language reads what it reads. And we were told, Michael Steen said he didn't anticipate any furloughs. And I think, even if they were going to, they've got new hires in the pipeline right now that are at will employees, basically. Okay, they're on the bottom of the seniority list. Where's the problem? What is the problem? That's what I want to know. Somebody can come out and tell us, then we can make an educated choice. But we can't make an educated choice if you're just going to sit here and say it's a complex issue. Leave it up to your professional negotiators. We know what you're doing. I don't need you to tell me what you want. I know what you need. And that's Chris Knox, quote unquote. They don't need to tell me what they want. They need to tell me what they need. I know what they need. So you know what?
You know,
He doesn't know
yeah.
what we need.
Hey,
Apparently he doesn't know what we need.
I, yeah, I hear you there. I just thought of something that's kind of random. I think what they're saying to themselves is that this is the first time in many years where they actually they have more pilots than they know what to do with, and they're worried that people that they've already indoctrinated into being Atlas pilots are then going to go ahead and leave, and they don't want to do that. But they are afraid to. They don't want to spend money, and if you look at the crewing list of each aircraft, they could very easily overstaff by just a fraction. If we're overstaffed by approximately 200 pilots right now, you've got what do we have? 57 fours, and we've got like 60 something aircraft that need to be staffed. Plus, you got the 767s. I think we have about 75 airplanes that need to be staffed. So, and you're overstaffed by potentially 200, maybe, and that requires that no attrition happens whatsoever. That right there isn't going to happen. But if you were to overstaff each aircraft by 2 or 3, and what would you do with that overstaffing? Create reserve lines that were actually out where all these aircraft fly, so that when someone calls in sick, they don't have to go into panic mode of figuring out what flight that's happening in about 16 to 18 hours can we steal that crew member and put them on this crew. That's why the other airlines out there that are the options for people to go to have reserve systems. And we don't have a reserve system. Our reserve system turns into a schedule usually 2 or 3 days before the R2 day is even supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's called robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And that's how we've been operating for year after year after year. And it's jeopardized a lot of flying, and it's jeopardized contracts, and they know it. And the maintenance has been an issue, and the aircraft readiness has been an issue, and the crew staffing's been an issue. And now, like you said, they have an overstaffed situation. They didn't anticipate any furloughs. Well, how would he have known that if he didn't run some type of award? If he didn't talk to his people and say, hey, if we get rid of Amazon, are we going to furlough? No, we don't think so, boss. Okay. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come out and publicly said, we do not anticipate any furloughs.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and you've got, I hate to say it, but even if you've got a line pilot out there right now who's flying and he's thinking he may get furloughed, well, you're talking about the bottom of the seniority list. You're talking about new hires right now that can go home and be told, hey, we'll bring you in. You're going to have to go home for a while until we can get you back through the system and get you off your OE. I mean,
you
even think
realize
that's
that
an option.
you realize that a pilot here is the most valuable asset that Atlas has. At least that's what we're told. We're told that all the time.
Well,
thank you
yeah.
so much thank you so much for everything you do. Fly safe. You're the most valuable asset we have. We get hit with emails about how to all of the wellness seminars and all the things because they care about us. They care about us up until the time that they're going to have to actually hold up their end and continue paying us. I've already, like I told you, we've got a lot of emails. I've also had a lot of phone calls, and there's a lot of people saying, "I'm out. I'm leaving." So they're not going to have to worry about furloughing because the resignation rate is going to skyrocket. And there's people that have called saying, "Hey, I just got checked out in the 7-6, and what about me?" And of course, if we had something to say about it in the crafting of this LOA, what we'd be saying is if you're currently in the left seat, then you should remain in the left seat. And if you end up having to overstaff left seat people for a period of time, then that's just the way it goes. And you're going to have to just take it. And they're telling us that they decided to exit out of Amazon so they could dedicate the crews to more what was it, flying that suited their Atlas One strategy, and it'd be more profitable. Well, then they're going to have to make an investment because
Look,
if in order
go
to
ahead.
keep people, you got to pay them.
Well, yeah, and here's the bottom line. The bottom line is they don't need to furlough anyone. You're on the bottom of this list. You do not need to be furloughed. That's not what this is about. What this is about is they looked at the training cost and they went, oh, well, wait a minute now. Now we got a problem. Because again, like I said, if you don't anticipate furloughing, then do the bump and roll, right? Do it, run your standing bid. Let's see what the results are. But all of a sudden there's a problem, and it's a complex problem that we all have to stand around and hold our breath waiting to hear what the answer is. And we're going to go in and we're going to negotiate an LOA. What do we need a letter of agreement for? What is it for? What's the complex issue that you keep saying that we have to fix? Is it the fact that it's going to cost the company millions and millions of dollars in training and they just don't want to pay it right now? Is it the fact that they know they'll have an exodus off the 737 and those seats will have to be backfilled and they don't want to go through that training cost and they can't get the training done? And now the problem that is their problem, okay? It is not my problem. It is their problem. They created the problem. And the language in the contract is there to follow. Just follow it. And if there's going to be harm somewhere, then we can talk about it. But if there's a cost of doing business, it's your cost of doing business. Why are we expected to fix a problem that is a part of their cost of doing business? They're one of the
Yeah,
most
agreed.
profitable airlines in the industry.
Sure.
I'm sorry, it's the cost of doing business. Deal with it.
The easiest thing to do. We can sit here and go back and forth.
Sure.
The fact is this: they've got a 7-3 fleet that they need to fly until June, and they've got captains on there that are senior. They can hold 7-4 today. So, but they may not want to, but they can't overlook the fact that their seniority number could hold 7-4 or 777. But they don't want that guy to leave because they got to keep the airplane flying. So the only thing they're going to be able to do is build a fence around the 7-3 and say, okay, this is a private island right now. This is a whole a separate entity from Atlas Air. It's our 7-3 program. And then the best way to treat those guys is have them bid right now. This is what you can hold. And when a senior 7-3 guy can hold 7-4 captain, for the next year, he's going to be making 7-4 captain pay. He or she, whoever that may be. That's the fair way to do it. Because anything other than that, that person could just say, "Hey, I'm out of here." But here's where they kind of have us. is that if you notice, there wasn't any vacancy awards for captain. They were only for FO. So the only people that have bumping rights right now is the 7.6. But they've already announced that the 7.3 is going away. So my question is, at what point does a 7.3 guy get bumping rights? Is it strictly because it shows up that they're going to be reducing the positions on that aircraft? That's a good. What do you have to say about that? I mean, I that just came to mind.
Well, they've already made the announcement. So, what does that mean? Well, your position's eliminated a year from now, and we'll fix that later. No, but then they had a problem because other people started to move through the system and they realized, well, why would I do this? I could just go over to the 737 and they have bumping rights. And you know what? I don't know the seniority the list that well to know who's going to get bumped where, but it obviously when they ran this award, they didn't like what they saw. And again, it's not our problem, it's their problem. And I wouldn't say there's one sole fix like that. You want us to subjugate seniority somehow? You want us to bypass this language? It's going to cost you. Bottom line is, it's going to cost you. And if they said, well, we're going to bring everybody up to a 74-hour guarantee, I'm sorry, that's not good enough for me. You can line balance everybody to a 74-hour guarantee, and then what? Throw me $10 an hour more? Excuse me. And speaking of that, speaking of the financial part, where's the $6,000 bump up I was supposed to get for the long-term medical that the e-board said we were going to get, and then they lost in arbitration, and now we're not even getting that. So that right there, absorbing the cost of the long-term medical insurance tax, that's just one tiny little piece of what needs to be fixed. And honestly, I just believe it when the e-board says they're miles apart, because they've got to tee up a home run for Mr. Paulson. He has got to hit one out of the park on this one. And it's got to be big. And I'm not sure Apollo's ready to go big yet. I'm just not sure they're ready to go big, folks. And why is this an emergency that we just have to do this LOA and it has to be expedited right now? Of all times, right now. Well, that's fine. That's fine. Show us the LOA. Tell me what you need. I'm sorry. Have you been asked for your written demands lately? When it's about to be modified, you're about to modify your contract with a letter of agreement, and we're supposed to submit our written demands. I haven't been seen a request for my written demands on this because I don't know what the company's asking for. And how do I know what to counteroffer if we don't know what the company why is there a problem? What's the problem? Tell us what the problem is. Maybe we can come up with the solution to it.
Well, Pete, they're going totally rogue. They're completely going. They are not following any kind of rules and procedures. This is the $6,000 you talked about. I bet there's maybe 10% of the pilot group here knows exactly what we're talking about. So here it is. When the long-term disability policy got put into place, in order for it to give us tax-free benefits in the event we had to use it, we had to pay tax on the cost. We were told by a newswire that the company had agreed to pay all costs. Well, the company did pay all the costs. The policy costs something like $1,500 a month, depending on how old you are, and the company is paying that. But in order to get the tax-free benefit, you have to pay for it with taxable monies. So then they go ahead and they throw it onto our paycheck, and it's called imputed. Well, as soon as the imputed $6,000 started showing up on everyone's paycheck, they then said, "Oh, well, the company promised us that they would pay all the costs." Well, we're not in a relationship where you make promises. We're in a relationship where you put it down on paper and you agree to it. And if you go to the contract, it says nothing that the e-board said that they were going to do. The company allegedly was going to increase our rate of pay equal to $6,000 to offset the cost of this benefit. Nowhere in the insurance benefits part of our contract does it say it's going to do that?
If
And
it's
then they
not
said,
in
"Oh, well,
writing,
it's
it's
not in
important.
writing." And then they said they were going to take it to the arbitrator. Well, the arbitrator it ruled on it and said, "What's your case? The company is doing what they said they would do." So this is a classic example of how we're told one thing and another thing happens, and then they rely on nobody remembering what was said in the past or not even reading what they were told. And then they just say, yeah, it's the company. That's what happens when you have an arbitrated contract. It's an unfair system. That's why you need us in here so we can defend you. And my opinion of this whole thing is that we are about to make a decision. And everyone needs to remember the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expecting something different. That's where we're at.
Yeah, you've got to make something. You've got to make some change. It's time for a change. We've got to get in there and change how we're doing business. It's not working. And these are the people that claim they're expert negotiators, okay? They want to tell you they negotiated all of this. Then they want to turn around and tell you it was arbitrated. You know, they were the ones telling us when way back, don't even get me started on the arbitrated contract, because all they had to do was merge the list and start a 9-month clock if that was the case. But they dug their heels in for years before they finally agreed to go to arbitration. So, you know, again, that's rehashing a lot of old stuff, but this is the professional negotiators that keep saying they have all this negotiating experience. They're
I look.
professional unionistas. That's what they
Yep.
are. They're lifetime union guys that want to stay in the union job because it's easy. It pays and it's easy. You don't have to go out and drag bag. You can put UB down on your pattern for 17 days in a row. You can stay home and sit behind a fake screen and put on a jacket, and then you can go out and have a scotch and a cigar when you're done. That's what it's all about. And everybody needs to just wake up and realize where all their money's gone. You know, go look at the LM2, folks. Go look at the financial statements of this union. They spent thousands and thousands and millions of dollars. And it was millions of dollars in assessment money to get the arbitrated contract we currently have. Millions, many, several millions. And you know, people need to wake up and realize this is all about the money, and
It
it's
is.
about having power, and they're terrified that they're going to lose power. They are absolutely terrified they are going to lose power.
Anybody that's been here 9 years or more know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is that in 2015, you started giving 1% of your paycheck away to the assessment fund. And they called it a war chest. They even called it a strike fund. And it lasted for 5 years. And they collected 10, $12 million. I mean, you could, if you chose to do the math on it, you could just say, okay, well, how much was the payroll for the Atlas pilots in 2015? And I've done the math, and it's about 200 million. So it obviously went up every year because pilots were getting hired, so there was more expenses. So $10 million, we'll just leave it at 10. Where did $10 million go? And 10 million, I mean, we're hearing numbers of billion and trillion, so we don't really give million all that much credit anymore. But $10 million was spent on a contract that nobody wants to claim ownership to. It's an arbitrated contract. It's a POS. It didn't get us what we deserve. We're not happy with it. Okay, well then why did we spend $10 million on it?
Yeah.
And where is the accounting on where that $10 million went? How how come nobody's come out and said anything of where it went? Do you know? Have
Yeah.
you I know you've asked
No,
questions.
no, they've never come out and said where it went, and they're not going to. It was lawyer fees and hotels and meals and all kinds of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's gone. Every
Did you
single
get
penny of the assessment money is gone.
did
And here's
did
another
you
thing,
get
folks. They're proud of the fact that they've saved up $15 million for the next contract negotiation. And they won't have to have an assessment this time because they're sitting on the 15 million that they plan on burning through to get there. God, I wish everybody would just sit back and take a look at some of these numbers sometimes when you see 14 grand at the Renaissance up in Chicago, Illinois. Take a look at the 2023 LM2. That's all you have to do to know it's about power and money. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And, but we got off the beaten path on that. We're talking about the 767, and we're kind of off the rail there a little bit. It got sidetracked. But at the end of the day, this is the company's problem. It's not our problem. Don't make their problem our problem. And if they have some kind of an issue and they've run this award, hey, then show us how the chips fell, and maybe we can do something for you. But we're not going to do it for free. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be easy. You're going to pay for it one way or the other. And like you said, you can either spend the money intentionally, or you can spend the money needlessly, right? Isn't that how you phrased it?
Yeah, exactly. And here's something else I want to say. This is quoting the CEO. He wants to take Atlas from great to giant. It's the Atlas One strategy. Okay, fantastic. We want to help you get there. We want to make Atlas a giant place that just dominates the world, so we can get paid what we feel we deserve to get paid, and we can be proud of everything we do. But let's remind you, sir, that you cannot forget the pilots that made this great when you're on the way to going to giant. So when it comes to whatever position you hold today, you earned it. You put in the time, you did all the bag dragging, you spent all the put up with all the schedule changes, and then you went down to training and you got checked out, and you are now a captain, and you're actually feeling pretty good about what's going on in your life as a career pilot. And then they make a decision that works for them financially, or maybe they got dealt a blow. We don't know. It doesn't really matter. The point is that we are the great pilots that are on the way to making you giant, so you can't forget about us. So if whatever position we're in right now, that's the position we're going to hold from here on out. And if it makes you spend a little bit of money to be able to overstaff the aircraft, then that's just the way it goes. Because you're the ones that are going to take this thing back to the public market and make your $5 billion or whatever it is you're looking to make. And we're just going to collect our wages that we get on our CBA. It's the difference between being in business for yourself and being an employee. That's what, as far as I'm concerned, this is, like you said, this is an Atlas Air problem, not an Atlas Air crew member problem.
Exactly. And this is our union, not their union.
Yeah.
And everyone needs to realize you're in your own union.
Here's where I'm at. My wake up call is going to come in here in a little bit, and I gotta get everything ready for that. So I got to get out of here.
Understood, John. Well, you fly safe. Be careful out there, and we'll everybody else. We'll see you later. Take care.
All right. Be good. Thanks for calling. All right. We'll see you later.